Hi, today I want to talk about happiness, and in particular, the science of happiness. So what's this science of happiness thing all about? Well, I think it's very interesting when we look at happiness, and let's just take in this video, we're going to look at the science of happiness, and we're going to then look at maybe some bigger aspirations in the background. The science of happiness is pretty much straightforward. It's looking at you as a brain that's wired a certain way and how that brain can be stimulated in the right way. So there's some basic cognitive neurological processes here. The major thing is that what makes you feel good, what gives you pleasure, is releases of endomorphine. So when you do a workout, for example, and you have that afterwards, that is endomorphin release. When you make love, again, you get big endomorphin release afterwards. And it makes us feel good. And that's a very basic chemical thing. So we're talking about regular happiness, we're talking about pleasure and pain. And human beings are designed in such a way that we want to avoid pleasure, we want to avoid pain, and we want to seek pleasure. This is a natural way of human beings. Now, we also know that all our brains are addict brains. And it used to be that people would think of as an addict as somebody who's like a drug addict, an alcohol addict, a smoking addict, and so on. But I think now we're starting to realize more and more that every human being's brain is addicted, okay? And of course, we're addicted to so many things. You see, like food addiction, social media addiction, social image addiction. How do I look on that social media, okay? Porn addiction, of course, is a big one these days. Work addiction, addiction to fight with other people on the internet. All sorts of addiction. We're addicted to so many behavioral patterns. And why are we addicted? If you think about it logically from a scientific point of view, is that why is it, for example, that we tend to like smartphones? Okay, and especially kids are on the games. Okay, the reason is that they get a hit. They get a sense of going to the next level and getting a hit in a computer game. In the case of an adult with social media, did he mention this? Did he mention that? I want to see what happened. They tagged me in that post. Oh my God, what did he think of me? Like me, didn't like me. Oh, what's happening? The drama. So because our brains think in a kind of story way, we like being in part of a story, and again, it's this constant hit. Did I get message? Did I get message? What did they say? What did they say? And our brains are designed for these quick hits. So we have to ask ourselves, are our brains designed for these quick hits? These quick hits, okay? So your body, as well as having endomorphine release, as in I just did exercise, just had sex, your body also has dopamine, whereby your brain gets its fix. So dopamine is the fix of the brain. I do certain activities, boom, dopamine, 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 and makes you feel good, okay, dopamine. If you think about it, say thousands of years ago, and you're out hunting, and say you're hunting some wild game, and maybe it takes you a day, maybe it takes you 2 days, 5 or 6 people, 10 people, hunting, and you're suffering. Maybe it's raining, maybe it's cold, maybe it's hot, maybe there's mosquitoes around, maybe you're dehydrated, maybe you've got gastrointestinal infection and you're having the runs while doing all this stuff. It's tough, but then you kill the animal, and you know that you're going to feed tonight. You're going to have a big feast. Your family's going to have a feast, and you get a huge high, okay? So this thing that your brain is wired in such a way to give you a dopamine release is basically designed to make you want to go out and hunt the animal, to make you want to go and kill the other guy in battle, okay? It's designed to make us be proactive. The problem is, especially in our present day society, whereby there's huge amounts of stimulation in the form of audio, visual media, and of course you have intoxication, there's so much easy access to drugs and alcohol and all this stuff. And we've got a very complex society with social media and all this stuff. It's just so easy to get hooked on these things. Our brain was designed in such a way to adapt to the environment so that we'd survive. But who we are today took 2 million years. And the modern society we're living in, really we have the industrial age from like the 18th century onwards, this modern technological age with TVs and radios and stuff since the World War II period onwards, 1940s, 50s onwards. The IT age since the 1990s with computers, smartphones, 2000s. So all this stuff is new and our bodies have not adapted yet. So our brains are basically stuck on these things that I need to release some tension. And it's going to be endomorphins, which make me feel that, and dopamine is going to make, okay? So you got your body release some tension, pleasure, endorphins. You got your mind release from stress, and again it's a pleasure, dopamine release. So the science of happiness says that you must find healthy ways of getting endomorphin release and dopamine release. So things like giving yourself good hobbies. Things like instead of sitting on the couch, watching Netflix, eating a big bag of potato chips, go to the gym, take up sports, learn to play the piano, find a new career, do something exciting and interesting, okay? Divert that need for either an endomorphin physical hit or a dopamine mental hit through more positive approaches. And if we think of society, society is naturally oppressive. And so the thing is, we have to fit in with society. We can't tell everybody what we think. We can't go into work in the morning and say, boss, you're a shitty person. You're going to get fired. You can't go into school in the morning or college in the morning, say professor or teacher, this rubbish course, you're going to be in trouble. You go to a family event, you have to be all smiley, be nice to those people, and so on and so forth. In every aspect of life, we're repressing ourselves to fit in. And that causes tension, and the tension has to come. You got both physical tension, which needs to be relieved through endomorphins, which tends to be things like sexual activity, physical activity, things like dancing, going to the gym, going for walks, etc. And you got to have mental relief, which is this addicted brain. Like I said, we all have an addict's brain. Our brain is addicted. The difference is, are you addicted with a small a or a big A? But you are addicted. All human beings are addicted because we're wired to be addicted because it helps us survive. It's that simple. So the thing is, from a scientific point of view, you have to find a healthy way, like exercise, for example, from an endomorphin point of view, because the primary ways of releasing endomorphins are going to be things like sex, violence, and exercise. And how appropriate are all those situations, depending upon a variety of things, can be problematic. Because sex has to be in the right situation. A lot of people have a porn addiction, which is not so good. Sexual violence isn't a good thing, of course. Violence in general isn't a good thing. Some people are just violent people. They get a kick out of beating other people up. Again, that's not good. So how are we going to release that, right? So from a physical point of view, things like exercise. I would also add in things like expression, like doing a sport, artistic creativity, DIY for some people, doing DIY as expression. All these ways of doing gardening, manual work, doing some kind of activity that you don't have to think too much and releases the pressure, and then you get endomorphin release. So for example, you do gardening all day, at the end of the day you're physically tired but you're mentally fresh. You've actually got rid of that repression, you got the endomorphin release, and you didn't do anything sexual or didn't do anything aggressive, and you were a good human being and all that stuff. So that's a healthy way of diverting those energies. Dopamine is things like pursue a new career. A lot of people say, for example, in computer games, the high they get is going to new levels. Well, why not go to a new level with your career? Why not go to a new level with your hobby? Rather than, say, for example, spending time just playing a computer game, why not make a computer game? Find out how to do it and do it. Rather than listening to music, why don't you learn to play music and record your own music with all that cool musical equipment you got nowadays, often for free, all these sort of editing softwares and so on. So we need to find, from the science of happiness, with small h, we need to relieve ourselves of pressure. And the problem we have as human beings is that I can relieve myself of stress and tension, and I can do it in negative ways, like, say, porn addiction, like, say, for example, eating too much food, like picking fights with people, or I can do it in a healthy way, like exercising, pursuing a sport, doing something creative. Okay, dopamine wise, again, I can do something very negative, addiction to social media, fighting with people all the time online and stuff, or I can do it very positively in things like studying interesting things, creating computer games, learning programming, creating YouTube videos rather than just watching YouTube videos as I'm doing right now. So this, for example, I get a dopamine hit out of this because it's interesting and it's engaging rather than sitting here like a vegetable watching YouTube videos, which I do a fair amount because I like YouTube. I'm making a YouTube video. So this is a science of happiness on a small h. And why I say small h is that science is only ever going to be interested in pain and pleasure, avoiding pain, seeking pleasure in the best way possible that's healthy for you in society. What about the big H, the big happiness? Now we're more into the realms of borderline psychology philosophy, okay? Most of psychology is focused on behavioralism because, you know, in science general these days, most people are either atheists or agnostics. They don't like talking about science. They tend to be materialists. Maybe they believe in God, but they don't like to think that way, or officially they like to be scientific. What that means is if you start talking about God or higher realities or higher aspirations, people think you're very funny. They don't take you seriously in this day and age. So most psychologists don't. They just stick to behavior. And behavioral therapy is a very effective way of changing your behavior, becoming a happier human being. But here's the thing. Happiness with small h is I have tension, I need to relieve that tension, and I need to find a healthy way of getting an endorphin hit and a healthy way of getting a dopamine hit. That's happiness with small h. But remember, you're repressed all the time. And when I talk about repressed, I don't mean, I'm not talking about being repressed by the patriarchy or something like that. I mean, or capitalism. I mean, you're being repressed by the fact you have to fit in society. You relieve the tension, and the tension goes back up. You relieve the tension goes back up. You relieve the tension goes back up. It's not true happiness. Does it make you happy? Of course it does. Because like you have a monkey in your back, you throw it off your back, you feel good for a while, and then it's back on your back again. Because you're relieving yourself of that tension, which is good. But what about big happiness? This is where I feel we get more into the realms of philosophy and the edge of psychology, okay? I feel, I can't prove it, but I feel that happiness is a side product of fulfillment. It's a side effect of fulfilling yourself. Let's take a look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We can see from Maslow's hierarchy of needs that we start with basic things like survival and maintenance and all that stuff, and then we go up to two things at the top, which is self-esteem and self-actualization. So if you look at most rich people, they get to a stage eventually where they start setting up charities and stuff like that. Now I know some of those people are just looking for tax havens and they just want to look cool. But a lot of people who are wealthy actually do want to do something for society because, yeah, you might have a desire to have a car and a house and a cool lifestyle. And getting these will make you happy for a while, happy with a small h, but it won't make you happy with a big H. You go to the next level. As you look after your physiological needs, you start going into things like social status and stuff. And when you go to social status and stuff, then you go up to self-esteem and self-actualization. Self-esteem is that which makes you feel good about yourself, which gives you a sense of self-worth. Self-actualization is pursuing your dreams, not societal dreams. Now, there are some superficial people and their societal dreams will be having a sexy looking person as their romantic partner and living in a big house and having a cool social media lifestyle. But most people need more than that to be happy. And they need to fulfill themselves, and which will be different. You have to look into your heart and find out what you truly desire. For most of us, there's a good chance we won't find out what we truly desire until we work on these other things. And I do think it's relevant. Things like having money, having social status, these are important for most of us. And most of us, some people are non-materialistic and they don't need these things, but most of us do need some aspect of money in the bank and people saying, you're good, before we can truly go into ourselves and find out what we really want to do with our lives. Not so much from a career point of view, but from the point of view of what makes us really happy. Okay, different things make people really happy. And what I'm saying is, it's very easy to see it as happiness is the end product. No, happiness is the side product, okay? It's like you take a flower with a beautiful scent. The scent is a side product of the flower. The flower is the flower, and the flower has a scent. A human being that's in fulfillment has a scent, and that scent is happiness. Happiness, true happiness with big H, is effulgence, is joyfulness, not just a quick, and then 5 minutes later you're looking for the next hit. That's happiness with small h. Happiness with big H is effulgence, joy, okay? Effulgence, a bigger version of yourself. And so it's a bigger thing than today I feel good, don't feel good, had a high, had a low, had a good day, had a bad day. It's more like a bigger picture thing. And if you want this, let's say, so now I'm talking about the science of happiness from the point of view of psychology, borderline philosophy, borderline spirituality, which is self-fulfillment, looking after your self-esteem needs, looking after your self-actualization needs. As you become who you're supposed to be, as you aspire to be this person, when you start being congruent, and congruent is this idea we have in maths, but also congruent is that in alignment with. So I believe, and I can't prove this is my philosophical belief, that there's two major types of desires. One is just the learned desire that we get a hit out of, okay? So you give a small kid a chocolate, or the Americans would call it candy, and they think that's okay. And the next day you give it, next day you give it, next day you give it. And by the end of the week, they want chocolate every day, or they want candy every day, whatever you want to call it. You've now made them an addict to chocolate. And for the rest of their life, they're going to want a chocolate hit. And if you replace it with an apple, they'll probably want an apple hit. So either way, the addictive brain is there. That's human beings, human happiness with small h. But human happiness with a big H, big happiness, is fulfilling who I am, pursuing those higher goals and ambitions. And it's a side product of living congruently. So what we're looking at here is our heart's desires. We have small desires, silly external desires. So let's put it this way. It's like who you are, let's take from your heart, who you are is here. Now this is the real you you're born with. And then you have all this external stimulation, and then you identify with the external, and you start thinking silly things like I'm my body, I'm my environment, I am my social media presence, all this nonsense. But actually you're you in here. You have these lower level desires, which are just things you pick up from the environment, like wanting a candy. But you have a higher level desires, we can call them your true desires or your heart's desire. Your heart desire is like your heart is tuned a certain way. Your life destiny is tuned a certain way. There are certain things which appeal to you, and I'm going way beyond things like addictions, like wanting to have cool experiences or hot experiences or exciting experiences. I'm talking about the things that really drive you, the real you. The real you has actual ambitions. The real you has actual aspirations. The real you has actual desires which you should be fulfilling. Okay? Jesus, the Bible says, do not put your light under the bushel. Don't hide your light. This is what he's talking about. This true self, true desires, heart's desires. And you will never be truly happy with a big H. You'll always have vacancy. You'll always have something wrong because you're in here saying, I want to be listened to. I have also a desire. You can satisfy these external desires, but there'll always be new external desires every day. But the only thing that can make you feel truly happy and fulfilled is by pursuing these desires inside. And this is where self-esteem comes from, and this is where self-actualization comes from. And the side product of fulfilling your heart's desires, who you really are, is happiness with a big H. And happiness with a big H is maybe you feel shitty today, but maybe tomorrow you feel better. But overall, your baseline is better. See? So let's say a person that's average, their baseline is here, but averagely they're more happy than this baseline. And then if some people are very happy and some people are depressed, they're below the baseline, they're really desperate. Okay? Depressed person really desperate. Okay? But if you work on your heart's desires, your baseline goes up here. And okay, some days you're this level of happy, and some days you're this level of happy, and some days you're this level of happy. But your baseline is actually very happy most of the time. Okay? So most people, although consciously they appear to be fairly happy, but deep down they're not really happy. But if your baseline comes up here, it doesn't matter if your everyday happiness is here sometimes, or every happiness is there sometimes, your baseline is pretty high. And the only way to get your baseline pretty high, real happiness, a big H, that overall you tend to feel fairly satisfied no matter what, is to work on self-esteem and self-actualization. How are you going to do that? You're going to have to do things like diary writing, self-reflection, self-work, going to workshops, spirituality, meditation, soul searching, all that stuff. It's all before you. It's your journey. I can't tell you how to do it. You have to do it. There's other useful videos on this channel will help. But that is the science of happiness, the small science of modern science with a small h, of just avoiding pain and seeking pleasure in a way that's constructive for everybody, and science with a capital HD, more esoteric philosophical viewpoint of science of happiness, which is the fulfillment of the higher self. Okay, hope you like that. A lot to think about. Please like and subscribe if you like the video, and I'll talk to you next time.